folks. One of the things I wanted to touch on today was in a wilderness self-reliance situation and you're out and you run across a wild beehive. A few of the things that I would talk about, or want to talk about rather, is the biggest thing you can do when approaching a hive is to smoke it, and smoke it heavily. Whenever you use smoke around a beehive, it causes the bees to actually climb back into the comb and start eating honey. It's a natural instinct for them, and it allows you to approach the hive without any of their scouts coming out and stinging you. Once you've smoked a hive, you can generally just walk right up to it and quickly grab some of the comb out of the hive. I would highly advise you to leave once it's done, because generally this will anger the hive. And another thing I want to point out is anyone that lives in a northern climate is actually free of the Africanized bees. Those that are in the southern climates, I would advise you to learn what type of bees you have in your area, and don't pull a Dave and try to steal honey from a hive of Africanized bees, because we've all seen what happens there. Once you have that honey, or that comb rather, and you bring it back to camp, we're going to get into that a little more here after a bit and talk to you about processing it from there.
Okay guys, so what we've got for materials for this exercise is we have a piece of willow bark here. Of course we know that's medicinal from our medicinal trees video, but it's also a multi-purpose item in that you can make cordage from the inner bark, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. We also have a block of wax that we're going to process over the fire and melt down, and we have a stalk from a semi-dead but still alive pokeweed. Okay, now this stuff is poison, so be aware of that. Okay, you're not going to want to eat this, but you really don't want to eat beeswax either. So what we're going to do with that is it's got some pith inside of it. You can see through the hollow there. It is a hollow tube, but it does have some pith inside of it. We can stick a stick down in there and clean as much of that pith out of there as we can very easily. The pith is very soft, and like I said, it's still green, so it's fairly wet on the inside. And we'll process that in and clean all that out of there before we pour wax into it, and then we'll shave it off to the size we want. The next thing we need to do is we need to make a wick, and we're going to make our wick out of natural material today. We're going to use this willow bark for that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull a piece of this inner bark out of here, just like this. I'm pulling just a fine strip of inner bark out. And you can see that gives me a nice piece to work with, and then I'm going to split that in half so I can make a reverse wrap 2-ply cordage. And if it doesn't split exactly right, it's not that big of a deal. I just need 2 pieces to work with. Now I'm going to show you the process for making this reverse wrap 2-ply cordage. One thing that you can do with this, if you want this wick to be really good and tight, is you can wet this down a little bit. You can either wet it down with your mouth, or you could go put it in the creek for a few minutes and wet it down, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go wet this down real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we've got our 2 pieces of willow bark here that we've gotten wet. And once you learn how to make a reverse wrap 2-ply cordage, you pretty much can make anything up to and including a bowstring. Now you can roll this and make it wound up already, or you can just start with it kind of flat like this. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'll just take 2 pieces and put them in my hand, just like this. And then basically I'll just start to twist it down. And I'm going to twist both of these pieces away from me first, like this. So I'm going to go away and just twist it down a little bit like this. And then all I'm going to do is take it and twist away, and then take the other side and twist it toward me. So away and toward me, away and toward me, away and toward me. Okay, real simple. I'm going to give you an over-the-shoulder shot of this so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm left-handed, so it can be kind of confusing for somebody who's right-handed. So I'm taking my outer one, twisting it away, and then twisting both bundles toward me. Away and toward me. Away and toward me, just like this. And it's just a repetitive motion once you get used to doing it. It's pretty simple. And this is exactly the same way you make a Flemish bowstring. And you can see what I've got there is a piece of cordage when I'm done. I just need to make this thing long enough to be a wick for a candle, and then we'll be set. It doesn't take a long time to make cordage. What takes a long time is making a massive length of cordage. To make something short, like for a candle or a bowstring or something like that, not going to take you a real long period of time, but to make 100 feet of cordage is a big problem. That's why one of the 5 C's is cordage. You have to have specialized materials in that you have to have certain inner barks or certain plants to make cordage, and then it takes a lot of time and energy to process that. You know, for me to make an 8-inch candle wick won't take any time at all. For me to make 100 foot of cordage, or even 6 or 8 feet of cordage to make a trap, would take considerably longer. And if I wanted 10 traps, you can only imagine how long that would take. And there's what my cordage looks like.
Now, I would like to mention that we went ahead and used processed beeswax today for this video, but we're going to go ahead and go through the same process as if this were comb. We're breaking it up and getting ready to melt it down.
Okay, before we make our candle, I'm going to take this piece of wick that I made here and I'm going to dip it in this beeswax real quick and pull it out and let it cool down so it'll harden straight on me. That way I got a good straight piece of wick to drop down inside the candle when I'm done. I don't have to worry about having kinks in it. Okay, so what we've done is we've taken our would-be candle mold here, a pokeweed stem, and we buried it in the sand in the bank of the creek just to give us a good steady platform. Now what I want to do is I want to see how long I need this wick to be and trim this wick before we pour. So if I shove this down inside here, I can see that my wick's about that much too long. So I'm going to cut part of that off the bottom, and that's going to give me enough probably for 2 wicks. Test it one more time real quick before we pour this into the mold. Get it good and straight. Still a little bit long. Okay, it looks like that's going to work out just fine. All right, Jeremy, pour it in, buddy. Perfect. Okay, so we got our candle mold now here on the bank. Jeremy, you want to grab that off of there, and we can break this wax off of it, hopefully. We can recycle all of this wax and boil it back down, get the impurities out of it, and we can still use this for candles, no problem. So we'll take this back to camp with us. We should be able to just peel this off because it's a green plant. Okay, so we brought our candle into the wickie here. So we get out of the wind, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this wick off now, right here at the candle. Light her up and see how she does.
Alright folks, we've shown you how to come out into the woods and take everything from nature and make a candle. Now we're going to show you the down and dirty way. Anyone who's ever been in the woods with Dave knows that there is a monster can somewhere that we could, pick up and use. And that's what we've done here in this example. We've used the other part of the wick that we had left over and the beeswax that we salvaged from the creek bank here. And just like you'd find in nature, it's got the grit and debris in it. There we go. Things we'd like to mention while we're making these candles is if you did come across beeswax in the wild, some things that you could also use it for would be obviously waterproofing your boots. If you have a leather knife sheath like I do, you could work it into the leather and dry it by the fire. You could rub it on any metal parts, such as your axe, your knife, buckles, to help protect them from rust. You can do an emergency patch on a tarp. It'd be a temporary, obviously. As winter approaches, we also want to mention about using it on wire snares and also waxing your bowstrings. So as you can see, beeswax has numerous applications out here in the wild, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, so here we are with our candle Jeremy made for us in our can. And basically, it's the same thing as this, except we're not going to peel the mold off of it. We're going to keep it in the mold because that just protects the candle. Alright guys, I'm Dave Canterbury. This is Jeremy Jenny from the Pathfinder School. We appreciate you joining us for this video. We appreciate your support. We'll be back real soon. Thank you very much.